So now we're going to go straight to our program, and I thought it was important for our esteemed guests who are sitting here on our front row to just know the type of people who they're going to be dialoguing with. So without any further ado, we want to ask the president of Pepco, who is a doctor also, and graduate of Howard University, along with Indiana University, but we put the Howard University first because we're proud of this woman. This woman is really somebody who epitomizes STEM, because a lot of folks don't realize that one of the closest things that we can touch that has to do with STEM is our electricity. And I've lived, Congressman, I've lived overseas where you don't have electricity. And your appreciation for electricity increases exponentially after you come back from living in an extended period overseas, particularly in the Sahara Desert. So without any further ado, I want to ask you all to put your hands together for the president of Pepco region, Dr. Donna Cooper, to give us some warm remarks.
First of all, thank you for such a warm welcome. I wanted to welcome you to the Pepco Edison Place Gallery, and we are really excited that we could be a part of this. Pepco has been in this community for over 118 years, and not just being in the community, we are a part of the community. This gallery is offered to nonprofit organizations to use for similar purposes as tonight. We have on display a particular exhibit that is focusing on the anniversary, ultimately looking at the history associated with World War I. And it's a reflection by Americans as well as Germans that have captured their elements and their portraits of that particular period in time. That example is not only as it relates to such entities. We provide this space to students who are also exploring their creativity in terms of the arts, also providing a forum for subjects such as this, as well as opportunities for networking. Our company is very much so, as Talib indicated. When you talk about technology, you cannot separate it from the utility industry. We are in a process of transformation. Technology is changing the way in which we interface with our customers. I want to go back a few years. Prior to me being with Pepco, I remember being exposed to a concept known as our Blueprint for the Future in 2007. And that Blueprint for the Future was towards moving our company in the direction of technologies, the smart grid, smart meters. And one of the things that was unique, I was wondering to myself, because I wasn't with the company, why would a utility ultimately be promoting energy efficiency? Wasn't there a direct correlation between the use of energy and their actual revenue? But there are disincentives as well as incentives for doing so. We view ourselves as being a valuable leader in that particular space. And I was pleased when I was with the company that we ultimately received the maximum award level in order to implement the smart grid. And we are leaders in that particular area. But there is so much more that needs to be done. When you look at our industry, there is a lot of change that's occurring as it relates to individuals that are ultimately retiring and leaving the industry. A lot of individuals do not look at the utility industry as that place to look for opportunities. From my perspective, we have to do more as a company in order to expose youth to opportunities that exist within our particular sector. And technology is core to that. One of the things that I'm moved by on tonight is the diversity as well as the interconnection between the individuals that's in this room. I am really moved by what you are doing. A lot of times we don't hear a lot about that element of positivity. And one of the things as a corporation that we have to focus on, the public-private partnership aspects. Years ago, one of the things I always stated, and I remember speaking to students over 10 years ago, is that opportunities existed for education, and you do not have to be concerned about resources. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Therefore, to close that gap, you ultimately need corporations and other entities to help do that. You are representative of that in this very room. I'm really moved by some of the programs that I'm hearing about, and I look forward to partnering with you more. And this is just a phenomenal opportunity, and I look forward to what tonight brings. As noted, as a utility, we are committed to the communities. We support many initiatives that support STEM-related initiatives in Prince George's County, Maryland, in Washington, D.C., and Montgomery County. Pepco is a utility that serves the Pepco region, but we're also a subsidiary of a larger holding company. We have utilities that operate in Atlantic City Electric, which is in New Jersey, as well as Delmarva Power, which is in Delaware. And our mission and objectives are very critical in this area, and we look forward to that continued partnership, and I look forward to continuing to work with Talib. Thank you.
And indeed, one of the things that we are going to talk about tonight is a challenge that we are putting forward to Donna's company, as well as to the entire network of energy companies, and that is to create, for every power company, a chief innovation and STEM officer. I mean, as a way of connecting all of these great organizations to the people who are doing STEM right underneath our feet, right over our heads, and connected to our hands and our feet and everything we do. So again, we're grateful for Donna's leadership and her hosting. Next, I want to ask the soon-to-be ranking member from the House Education and Workforce to come and bring us remarks on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, because again, the Congressional Black Caucus is celebrating their 44th annual event. And in celebration of that, we decided that we had to have this event, Congressman. And this is the first time that there's ever been a tech and STEM festival ever connected to the Black Caucus. And I came to Washington, D.C. back in 1990 as a CBC intern for the late Congressman Merv Dimely, former chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. And so, Congressman, one of the things I'd like to, challenge you, if you could, as you come up to get the mic, is to make sure that in the years to come, that the technology is not just on the periphery of the Congressional Black Caucus, but it's definitely rock centered in the Congressional Black Caucus. And I know that you're going to help make sure that happens.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Karim. And for those out of town, I want to welcome you to Washington. This is the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Week. And there are approximately 50 to 100 different workshops, many on education, and I can assure you that STEM will be well represented. Because as you know, and as the people who have STEM backgrounds know, education is extremely important for your future. I serve on two committees, Education and Workforce and the Judiciary Committee, where I'm the lead Democrat on the Crime Subcommittee. And when I talk to young people, I tell them that I'm going to see them one way or the other. You can get a good education and a good job from my good work on the Education and Workforce Committee, and those who don't get the message, well, we lock up a higher portion of our population than any country on earth by far. So the Judiciary Committee, full of slogans and sound bites to lock them up if they didn't get the message, is alive and well. But we know that if we're going to be competitive as a nation, we have to compete on education. We're not going to compete on low wages. You say bring your business to the United States because you can pay the lowest wages. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is bring your business to the United States because we have a well-educated, well-trained workforce. And a high school diploma nowadays is not enough. You need education past that, and the best jobs are in the STEM fields. Now, unfortunately, notwithstanding the fact that education and training is so important, we're slipping in those areas. On international tests, the United States students are way back in the pack. You should be #1 in the world, but we're way back in the pack, and our competitive advantage is slipping. And so we need to make sure that we have organizations that will encourage people to go into the STEM field so we'll have that competitive workforce. I want to thank you, Karim, for all that you've done with STEM4US to encourage everybody to focus on STEM education. Minorities are woefully underrepresented in the STEM areas, and so we have a lot of work to do, and organizations like this can help bridge that gap. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Look forward to working with you in the future to make sure that all young people have access not only to an education, but to a good STEM education. Thank you very much.
And Congressman, I want to make sure that we, if you could, David Owens is here from the organization that helped to make this event happen, and that's the Edison Electric Institute. I mean, we're in the Edison Gallery, and David in particular would like to say some words for you, Congressman. David, come on up. Again, give David a round of applause, the lead sponsor of this particular event.
You know, one thing I'll say about Talib, he never follows a script. But Congressman, it is a great honor to have you here this evening. We need leaders like you to help stimulate our focus in the STEM area. My organization, Edison Electric Institute, represents all the privately owned utilities throughout the United States. In our industry, 500,000 workers, but we have a gap. We have a tremendous gap, and Dr. Cooper kind of made some reference to it earlier. And one of the things that I'd like to see, working in the electric industry or working in the utility industry is a very exciting area. I know that there have been hearings about stimulating job development for our communities, and I would strongly encourage you to keep that focus. I'm trying to encourage our industry in the workforce gaps that we have to focus on helping minority students, directing them to get into STEM areas, directing them to get to the utility area. And again, I thank you for being here, and I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. Let's give it up for Congressman Bobby Scott, always on the call. I see that our chairwoman has arrived. Let's ask our chairwoman to come and give greetings and introduce our next speaker. Without any further ado, Dr. Nicol Turner-Lee, the chairwoman of STEM4US and also the vice president of policy for the Minority Media and Telecommunications Council. Give it up.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say thank you to all the hosts and the sponsors. Thank you all for coming out. I'm going to be really short because there's a panel discussion that we want to have and some additional speakers. Thanks to the congressman that came out. Don't you think STEM is important?
Yes.
Don't you think STEM is critical for the next wave of our workforce?
Yes.
And don't you think that STEM is for us?
Yes.
This is something that we really care about. A couple years ago, there wasn't any kind of policy initiative or any kind of initiative on the Hill or the FCC or other places to really look at the importance of STEM. I think the recent numbers that we've seen in Silicon Valley in particular actually demonstrate the need to train more people so we will never have a situation again where people say they cannot find Black and brown and red children to actually participate in the pipeline of those careers. So we are on a mission and a journey to actually build this. I ask all of you to continue to follow the work of STEM4US, stay engaged with this movement. This is as important as other debates and issues that we deal with here in Washington, D.C. and across the nation. We have a commitment to answer back to people when they ask us why they can't find qualified folks that STEM is for us. That starts with our young people, it starts with us as adults, it starts with our partners and educating folks on that. And I would even suggest a recent term that I've heard, it's not just STEM, but it's STEAM, because it takes the arts to also design the tools and devices that we use today. There's a certain chemistry and magical nature around designing those iPhones and all the things that we use. So we've got to encourage our kids to be holistic, because in the end, it's not just going to be not having a high school diploma, not having a college degree, not having an advanced degree, but actually having the intuition to be a part of this changing ecosystem. So I encourage you all to keep following us. We've been doing some great events up on the Hill, educating and raising awareness among members. We've got a great team, a great staff of people that have actually been working on this event tonight. Thank you for kicking off ALC Week with us as one of your special events that you have today. And I want to stop because we have a great panel and just say thank you to the Lib for actually bringing this message and making sure that we engineer this journey so that we can actually look in the next 5 years and say, we made it in. So thank you very much. Proud to be a part of this.
And again, Dr. Turner-Lee, you might have heard Dr. Turner-Lee talking about, some of the issues that we're talking about today on the radio. She's a frequent commentator on Marketplace. I don't know how many people listen to Marketplace, but I listen to it religiously. And
but if there's anybody in here, I am trying to get on Oprah. I think I can do it.
So without any further ado, I want to bring up our next sponsor, and that is the state of Maryland, bringing greetings on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor in particular, Anthony Brown, who I have a selfie with if anybody wants to see. But on behalf of Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown, that's Cindy Hasselbring, the Special Assistant to the State Superintendent of Special Projects, Maryland State Department of Education. Cindy, come on, give it up.
So on behalf of Lieutenant Governor Brown, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event, promoting STEM education. And if you think about what our kids' needs are for the future, if Facebook were a country, it would be the second largest in the world. 8 billion text messages are sent every day. The first one was sent in 1992. So things are really changing rapidly for our students. They're digital natives. They grew up in a world where the internet existed, where, when we were younger, that wasn't so much the case. But we need to prepare them for that future of constantly changing. So how do you build skills for those students for jobs that don't even exist yet? So we need to be thinking about that. So in Maryland, there's a huge emphasis on STEM education and really preparing our students for the next generation of workforce. And so we're working on a STEM education strategic plan right now. It's supposed to come out in October with really how to get STEM across to all students in our state, not just a few. So a couple other things really quickly are we have a new digital learning initiative that Governor Martin O'Malley and Lieutenant Governor Brown have initiated. It's a $3.5 million grant to districts to really improve and give kids the opportunity to work with technology and enhance teaching and learning for students all across the state. We also have an early college grant that is a $1.4 million grant to 4 districts to really strengthen the partnership between local school districts and community college to give kids access to college when they may not have had access before. So we're really excited about those 2 initiatives in particular and really excited to really work hard for students in Maryland to really build the skills in STEM education so that they can go into those high-paying jobs that are going to be really needed for the workforce. So thank you very much for allowing us to participate.
Thank you. And as was said, we're being a little bit innovative, David, with our schedule. That's the thing that we're doing. And we have a great sponsor, the George Mason Game and Technology Academy. Vera, can you come on up and just give us brief words? We have a couple of people who are going to be coming to follow you, including our Department of Energy representative, but we want her to know exactly the type of technology that you are powering.
Well, we're powering probably the most seductive technology out there, which is game design. And the beautiful thing about game design is it is a wonderful hook for STEM because all of your kids, all of my kids, they all play games. And our motto is Mason Game and Technology Academy, where art and technology learn to play. And one thing we tell the kids is, you may like books, you may like music, you may like programming, you may like all of these things. There's a role for you in game design. So we're the candy. We get you in, and pretty soon you realize, I think I like this STEM thing. So we have a K-12 program. We have a teacher training program, because one of the things we have found is that, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. The teachers are having a hard time keeping up with all the latest technology in game design. It's a field that's quickly changing, and so we're going to be offering programs for teachers to come and upgrade their skills so we can make teaching game design available to kids and in the public school system. Because we had 800 kids last summer, and we could easily have doubled that. So thank you for having us, and look forward to the rest of you.
Thank you, Vera. Let's give it up. I mean, I want to bring up next to give remarks, not just on behalf of the Obama administration, but really on the Department of Energy. Because the Department of Energy, as was stated earlier, and energy in general, we believe at STEM4US that the E in STEM really should stand for energy, because that is the thing that is closest to us in terms of STEM. We all know about, computers. We all know about, planes. But, very few people think about, rather, energy when they talk about STEM. And again, this woman who's coming up right now, she knows firsthand the importance and value of energy in the context of STEM. She's been leading the issues of workforce diversity as well as supplier diversity on behalf, as well as innovation diversity on behalf of the Department of Energy since the beginning of the Obama administration. And clearly, we are gratified that she's made time out of her schedule to come and connect with us. And not only that, but their organization, their office, sent a representative for some of our outstanding conversations that we have on Capitol Hill every 2 months, and that's the STEM Power Lunch. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring up the Honorable LaDonna Doss Harris, the Director of Office of Economic Impact and Diversity at the Department of Energy. Give it up.
Good evening. Good night, folks. Listen, STEM education, it is not an option for us at this point. In this country, 1872 was the last time we were leaders in the world for economic impact and diversity across the nation. The United States was the #1 economic leader. Come the end of this year, we will lose that status to China. When it comes to STEM education, our students rank in math around the world number 26 in math. We're not in the top 5, we're not in the top 10, not even in the top 20. Number 26. When it comes to science, we're number 21. So, listen folks, when it comes to the importance of STEM education in this country, it will become a national security issue. It is no longer an option for us to have the decision of whether it's important or not. By the year 2020, the majority of kids in this country, 18 years and under, will be of the minority race. So when it comes to minority students in this country, we have to accept their support and their need, otherwise this country will lose its edge, end of discussion. So for me, this is not an issue of should we be in STEM, or should we include women in STEM, or we should include minorities in STEM. We have to include women, we have to include minorities, and we have no options. So for me, this is very important, not only for the Obama administration. I have only been in administration for over 2 years. I just got here, I was confirmed by the Senate in 2012. So I'm from private sector, but I do know that the Department of Energy, it's one of those agencies very few people know much about. The Department of Energy has more scientists, I'll put it this way, PhDs alone. We have 1,200 in one of our locations, 1,200 PhDs in our Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, more PhDs in one concentration in the world. We're the largest contributor to basic science anywhere in the world. We have 3 of the world's largest supercomputers are actually at the Department of Energy, the world's largest lasers there. We have over 6 elements on the periodic table was developed at the Department of Energy. So the Department of Energy is the STEM agency in federal government. I always tease that NASA has a cup full of scientists, we have a boatload. So when it comes to the need for us supporting the industry, matter of fact, the Department of Energy's model is a public-private partnership. It's one of the few agencies, we have 118,000 employees, 100,000 are contractors, only 15,000 are feds. So we are not the typical federal agency which has mostly federal employees, but most of our contractors are the big private sectors, Martin Marietta or Lockheed Martin. We partner with universities. Matter of fact, our model is one that we bring in STEM support. So when it comes to our communities for STEM, we have the support for all of our labs. We have 17 national labs, and please, folks, check that out on the website. These 17 national labs are national treasures. They're more like best kept secret I've ever heard of. I mean, these labs have, like I said, not only these scientists, but we do research for all the energy, all the electric utilities, oil and gas, any energy sector there is, from renewable to fossil, all the different segments of energy. We lead for energy efficiency. We have funded billions of dollars. It's a $26 billion agency, only second to the Department of Defense is the Department of Energy. So when it comes to STEM in supporting schools, we have outreach for students, we have internships, we have teachers coming from universities into our labs, we have our professors from labs going into schools. I'm responsible for minority education, community development, minority business development, economic development. We're partnering with Africa even. We're wanting to make sure we work with the schools in Africa. We had an energy minister there. We're working with the universities in Africa, partnering with, particularly the HBCUs here in the US, partnering with the schools in Africa. So all I say to you today is, listen, I'm a STEM. I was one of those girls. I'm a family of 13. My mom died. I was 8 years old. I'm an electrical engineer, the first African-American to graduate from the University of South Carolina in electrical engineering. So I know STEM. I've been around a while. I was doing STEM before STEM became an acronym. Okay, so it's important for us to support our kids in neighborhoods constantly and supporting all of our girls and our minority students and all kids. Listen, we're gonna need every brown, black, yellow, red student there is for STEM in order for us to address student issues here in this country. Women have to be pulled in. I'm the senior official for the Department for the White House Council for Women and Girls. And as you know, the president is very keen on making sure we have STEM teachers, STEM students. He's focusing heavily on women and girls and minorities across this country. So we all have to come together. It's a three-legged stool, one which requires academic support, private sector, as well as government. So all three of those legs have to be in play for us to make an impact. We are in I call it a crisis in this country. When we have fallen behind, as we have, in STEM education, in STEM careers, 30% pay 30% more than most careers. Women in particular, engineering is still the highest paying study out of college when I got out, and it still is. Not enough women, not enough minorities. Listen, folks, we have to address this as if the seats you're sitting on are burning with fire, because this is not a casual situation for us. I stepped away from my private life to be in this administration at this point because of the importance of our students and the importance of energy, the importance of STEM, and the importance for all that you do. Having heard you guys' backgrounds, all the amazing things, but we have to come together now like we have never come together before, simply because it will become a national security issue. When you no longer have economic leadership, you no longer have STEM education and technology. Listen, there were the top 100 companies in this country had to rank 3 areas of importance for their competitiveness and survival. The first one was technology. The second one was diversity and women. And the third was innovation. So diversity and women are key for the livelihood of this country and all the big CEOs across this country. So please I appreciate this particular session. I am passionate about what we do, and in focusing, I give Dr. Ford is my technical advisor in my office, just an amazing leader, and we've been doing I'm everywhere. I just did a convocation at Clark Atlanta last week talking specifically about focusing on STEM. So Native American, Asian American, African American, every minority group, including women, is where I focus. So listen, let's focus. This is no joke at this point. That's right. It's becoming a national security issue for all of us. And we all have to participate. And we all have to take this very seriously, because our kids, our future and the security, really, really relies on it. Okay? So we good?
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Give it up. I mean, her assistant says she doesn't represent the president, but I would say she definitely carries herself like the president. Give it up again. We're going to ask all of our panelists to come to the stage, and while they're getting mic'd up, and I'm going to introduce them. I want to just quickly ask you all to look at your program booklet and check out the list of sponsors. All the panelists, if you can come up, council member Mike. But we're going to just recognize all of our sponsors while they're getting mic'd up. And if some of the people can get them mic'd up, that will help us. First and foremost, we have Pepco. We have the Pepco Edison Place Gallery. We have the Edison Electric Institute. We have the George Mason University's Mason Game and Technology Academy. We have Howard University Graduate School and Howard University Materials Research Center. We have State of Maryland, Prince George's County Human Relations Commission. We have Hogan Loveless, K&L Gates, Bridging Resources and Communities, SCI Ventures, STEM Todd Academy, VKW Enterprises, Data Analytics, STEM4US, Tech Law and Tech Relations, 1776, EB Media Group, MMTC, Silhouette Media, Social Girls LLC, and Cyber Wealth. Some of you all might have visited some of the outstanding exhibitors. The exhibitors are Edison Electric Institute, the George Mason University Game Academy, Howard University, State of Maryland, Prince George's County Human Relations Commission, SCI Ventures, STEM Todd Academy, Cyber Wealth 7, Social Girls LLC, and Tech Law and Tech Relations. We have a couple of awards, again, we want to give to our beautiful communications director who's going to make sure they get to the right hands. We have an award for Pepco. Let's give it up for Pepco. We have an award for the Edison Electric Institute. Let's give it up for the Edison Electric Institute. And David, do you want to sit on this panel too? I think you might be well served. Let's get David, if David has a chair. Let's give it up for the Edison Electric Institute. Let's give it up for the Edison Electric Institute, the main sponsor. The state of Maryland, for your commitment to STEM initiatives and diversity. Give it up to the state of Maryland, the Lieutenant Governor's office in particular. Thank you so much, Cindy. And we're going to need pictures of all the people who are getting these awards. To the Howard University Graduate School, we want to definitely thank Howard University and its new president, Dr. Wayne Frederick. We also have the Prince George's County Human Rights Commission. We want to say, Michael, we want to have it stand up here and get your picture taken. Also to the Mason Game Academy. George Mason Gaming Academy. Vera, would you like to come and just get a quick picture? And again, we thought that it was interesting and important to have this conversation. And Donna, if you want to come and get a picture taken right quick with all of our other key sponsors, that would be great. We thought it was important to have this conversation take place right after the tragedy in Missouri, because we understood and we knew firsthand that soon people would forget about Mike Brown, as they forgot about Trayvon Martin, and as they forgot about the young man who was strangled to death in New York, as they forgot about the young woman who was shot in the Walmart parking lot, as they forgot about the young man who was killed at the Fruitville station. Again, these are tragedies that are taking place right now. And how do they connect with technology? Well, the people who are here on our panel are going to be talking about how the technology and the energy sectors all have an obligation to come together to innovate an end to all Fergusons. Can we get a round of applause to a concept, hashtag end of all Fergusons? Let's give it up. And what we're going to do, we're going to just have a quick round robin of questions that we're going to pose to the people. But I'll introduce each of them. We have the Honorable Sherry Branson, who's a Montgomery County Council member. And just some months ago, she was one of my colleagues working on Capitol Hill as a staffer for the House Homeland Security Committee, which is overseeing the Homeland Security Department, one of the largest agencies. And now she's a member. We tease her about that. But we're proud that she's now a member of the Montgomery County Council. Also, exactly, give it up to the council member. Thomas Reed, the director of the Office of Communications Business Opportunities at the FCC. I started off in the honors program at the FCC under the former chairman of the FCC, that's Bill Kennard. So I'm happy that Thomas is with us. We also have Michael Lyles, the executive director of Prince George's County Human Relations Commission. Saida Ashahid, STEM Todd Academy, who's doing some great work, is also a middle school teacher as well. Tony Thomas, who's a venture capitalist with the SCI Ventures. And again, we're going to throw some questions to you, and I'll start it off. What is the role of technology in addressing this issue that we saw play out in Ferguson? Are we totally off the mark by trying to blend technology and media and even energy, David, into this conversation, council member? Or are there some things that are connected and some things that can actually be used to solve this issue?
Well, yeah. Is this on?
Yeah,
okay. You know, that's a very interesting question. I think the answer lies in what you believe technology is, what it can do. What I know for sure is that technology can provide all of our young people, but particularly African Americans and Latinos, with a way forward. Ferguson was really an explosion of hopelessness. It was an explosion of being fed up. I mean, unfortunately, and I really mean unfortunately, someone is killed by the police in this country like about once a week, you know, if not more. So it wasn't that really got people upset. The kind of oppression that people in Ferguson felt had a lot to do with simply being harassed all the time. You know, they were always in court. There were always tickets. They were always being stopped. You know, a part of the problem is that they had not managed to connect their situation with change. And that's the role of technology. Their practical, everyday situation could, in fact, be changed through the political process. You know, I'm really looking forward to the next elections in Ferguson because I don't think it's going to look the same way. And once that happens, then the policies can change. Technology is a tool that we can use for change. And if Ferguson says anything, if there's any link with technology, and I believe there is, it is about our willingness to examine that change. I'm going to let somebody else talk about all the hashtags and how everybody kept informed. But from a political process point, I think that's what Ferguson means.
And I'll bring it down to our colleague from the FCC. I mean, what was stated is that what was the game changer is, as was stated earlier, was Twitter capturing all the people with their hands up in protests, Twitter showing, and not even, we can talk about Ferguson, but even the bombing in Palestine. You know, it could have been still going on, but for Twitter and everybody around the world, you know, expressing their sadness and their outrage of what was happening. From the FCC, what do you all think? I mean, we have right now one of the hottest movies grossing in America is the movie No Good Deed, starring Idris Elba. And I'm not gonna call anybody out who saw this movie, but we protested it, you know, because we thought that on one hand, Tom, you know, they were trying to basically kind of promote, you know, the masculine nature of Idris Elba to women by even showing some of these pictures that went across the internet about him. And then at the same time, you have a movie that came on the heels of Ferguson where you see an African-American male who's a threat, you know, so now an excuse for him to be shot because he's not only threatening people, but particularly black women, right? Do you think that Hollywood, in particular the FCC, who has some, you know, connection with the programming that goes in our cable and our television, Is there a role for the FCC to play to make sure that we change these images? Because some people said that Barack Obama couldn't get a cab without the Secret Service on 16th Street.
Well, yeah, thank you, Talib. The FCC definitely has a role. I mean, when we talk about programming, we don't police content. That's not our job. But in my view, what we should be doing is making sure that there's a diversity of purveyors of that content. So, as we're talking about technology, one of the issues that was raised by Ferguson is that what technology can bring is greater transparency. But we're being inundated. I mean, everybody has a smartphone. Everybody's taking a camera shot of an incident. We're inundated by all of that content. So what we need to have, when you talk about programming, you're talking about movies, we need to have a tremendous amount of diversity in terms of the individuals that are producing that content so that we get a balanced view. There's no way that in this age, when we have so many things that are coming out in the internet and in Twitter and all of the social media, that we're going to be able to sort of stop that and say, well, this one's incorrect, this is false imagery. All that's First Amendment. We're not going to be able to stop that, but we want to get the good stuff in, and we want to create opportunities, and particularly in my office, I want to create opportunities for entrepreneurs to get their content out there. The net neutrality debate goes to that point. We want to make sure that small businesses have an opportunity to use this vehicle and aren't stopped by sort of larger players who have more money who can go at greater speeds. So I'm going to cede the floor, but there are a number of things that we can do as a governmental entity to make sure that everybody's getting a fair shot, and the imagery that we're seeing isn't slanted too negatively.
And Tony, I mean, you have children, as do I. What would it take from a financial standpoint? You're a venture capitalist. If you were going to fund a group who said that we're going to go and innovate a solution to racism, where there can be, an end to any Ferguson, that you wouldn't have to worry about your daughters, right, walking down the street after maybe graduating from the top, STEM academy here in DC and going on to one of the STEM, maybe hopefully HBCUs or other schools getting STEM degrees and then being shot by a police officer or beaten up by a police officer just because they happen to be African American. What do you think it would take from a financial standpoint for us to solve this? And do you think that there's a role to be played by maybe energy companies as well as technology companies and even pharmaceutical companies to bring about an end to all Fergusons?
Got it. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. I'm very impressed with what you've been able to do. To get to your question, solving racism, a big issue. I mean, that's a big challenge. But in terms of technology, in terms of media, in terms of what our young kids can see from the impact of having a voice, there are too many of these incidents that have happened like Ferguson that go back for centuries, unfortunately for us in our communities. The growing difference today is the liberation that technology gives each and every one of us to have a voice, and whether it's through tweeting or through other types of technology using our mobile communication and other devices. The interesting thing, to go to your point, it also creates that sort of entrepreneurial idea inside of young people. That's what excites me the most about STEM from an entrepreneurial perspective. And I'll give you an example. There's an entrepreneur that I am working with other folks in backing, and instead of tweeting words, it's more of a collaboration of video. So it's a mobile app that this individual has created where
like a Vine?
It's like a Vine, but it's more collaborative. So if we're all in this environment, seeing what's happening at Ferguson, I can shoot a perspective from this side of what's going on. If you're on the other side of the room, I could share my video with you. You give me your perspective from another, and all of a sudden, we're collaborating. It can be real time or with video that we've collected on our devices, and then publishing it to social media, thus giving us a voice to share with everybody else. So from venture capital, what does that mean? The beautiful thing today is, even compared to 10 or 15 years ago, it doesn't cost as much anymore to build a company. To build something like that, 10, 15 years ago might have cost tens of millions of dollars to do. Today, because of open source, because of the ability to get your word out through social media and interconnect with social media, the cost to build that app, to build that business is hundreds of thousands of dollars. That, again, the issue of having capital within our communities is a very big issue, but it doesn't cost as much anymore to have something that's impactful. So, you know, it's the voice to let people know what's going on with racism so that they're not reading about it or somebody in some foreign community doesn't understand what's happening. I'm showing you what's happening. It has the ability through social media to become viral. But the whole idea of our kids understanding, your kids, my kids, the technology and how to use it way better than us, and to introduce them to the ideas of how can they create their own apps, and knowing that it's cheap and it's possible to do, that could then create businesses. That's what excites me. And that will, I hope, continue to have an impact on whether it's racism or it's any of these other types of events that unfortunately will probably be a part of our future as well.
Well, I will not accept that. I will not accept that we have to live in a world that my young son who's 7 years old or my daughter who's 13 months, you know, is going to have to inherit a world where they're going to be considered inferior merely because of their skin color. I will not accept that. In fact, I left this country because I thought that maybe I'd go to Africa and escape it, but it's inescapable, you know? Mike, my question to you, I mean, in the context of bringing about an end to all Fergusons, well, you know, what is it going to take? I mean, we talk about the technology sector. In fact, in Silicon Valley, you know, it's all about creating an ecosystem, you know? They create basically companies based upon people who they know. And and those people create companies based upon people who they know. And so it's all kind of an incestuous, you know, community. In fact, it was stated that, you know, some of the companies such as Google and Facebook have minuscule, you know, numbers of diversity, both from the standpoint of African Americans as well as women. They said the only people you can find in the Silicon Valley to a large critical mass of color are cooks and maintenance people. And in the terms of venture capital, which we know is the lifeblood of innovation, only 1% of all monies invested in 2013 went to African-American companies. And a similar percentage went to women companies. Mike, from a standpoint of the Human Rights Commission, who's connected with the EEOC, what can we do to bring about an end to this?
Appreciate being here. One of the things that we try to do in order to stop discrimination, for instance, is education. Because racism is going to occur, but some of the ways we can stop discrimination is by educating those that might be discriminated against. One of our problems with Trayvon Martin, as well as with Ferguson, is that we don't have enough black forensic scientists. You see, because when you look at the amount of microphones that are put in front of the young people who were there that day, they can't tell you how far anything was from anything else. You see, when we begin to isolate and understand an incident from a scientific perspective, had the media talk to the brother who was right with him, and had that brother been able to say, well, the police officer was 25 feet from my friend. Well, my friend was shot 5 times, and one of the bullets was 5 feet above his torso. You know, when the children can start to act like forensic scientists in their daily life, it'll be harder for people to say that something wasn't awry. Right now, what we have is, you know, kind of hyperbole. We have pictures made up of what someone might have seen, but what's really going to tell this case, just like in Trayvon Martin, is the forensic science. And we don't have enough African-American children choosing that as a profession. Secondly, I think that science and technology and those in the industry have a great role to play in helping children see that science can play a role in helping them make better decisions. Because racism, we won't stop today or tomorrow, but maybe sometimes science can help you experiment in your mind about if I approach the officer this way, this could happen. Well, I've seen that happen before to a friend of mine, and he got shot, so maybe I won't do that. You know, see, science helps us. The cold, hard, as Ernest Everett just said, the cold, hard fact of science can help children make better decisions in daily life. So I think STEM has a great role to play in helping us create scientists in children every day, but also helping them to make better decisions because of the scientific method that's intrinsic to STEM subjects.
And Sayyida Shahid, who you again are a teacher, a teacher and principal at the Florence Henderson Middle School, right, in Falls Church? Mary Ellen Henderson Middle School. And my question to you is, again, what are you doing to educate your children, both African American and otherwise, about what's going on as it relates to technology and Ferguson? And, you know, another question based upon what I heard also from the marketplace is that there's going to be in the next 5 years a need for 1 million people who know how to code. Well, the problem is that there are very, very, very few teachers who know how to code themselves. So there's not even enough people who can teach our youth coding in the first place. What are you doing and what are other teachers doing to solve that issue?
Thank you. Again, thank you for having me today. I represent STEM Taught Academy, which is a pre-K organization that I run, and I'm also a middle school principal. And, you know, the chairwoman mentioned STEAM. I'm going to introduce STREAM because literacy is very important, and the R in reading comprehension is very important. So we do need to include the reading component of it as well. And when we talk about STREAM education and relating it back to Ferguson, we need to, one, educate our children by engaging them. They need to be engaged from not only bell to bell, but after school. Who's watching our students after school? What STREAM activities are they engaged in after school? So, and it doesn't start at the middle school or high school level. We have to reach them early on. We need mentors. We need you in our schools. And so the difference, what we're doing in terms of coding is we're looking for mentors to come in and work with that 17-year-old and that 18-year-old, but we also need you to work with that 3-year-old and that 4-year-old because 3- and 4-year-olds, I'm here to tell you, can code. They can use hopscotch on iPads. They can use Bbots. There are other tools that they can use at 3 and 4 years old. And the most inquisitive children that you have are usually 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds because they're always asking, if you have them at your house, why, what, how, where, when. So in order to circumvent some of the violence that's going on, it's going to take us entering public and private schools to work with students one-on-one and not leave them once they leave high school, using organizations like NSBE to work with our students beyond high school, kind of walking them through from pre-K, P through 20, and walking them through and holding their hands and say, you're an engineer, I don't need a pat on the back, I just want us to continue to network. I want to continue to mold and make sure that you're the young African-American, Hispanic, Asian, Caucasian even, engineer and doctor or scientist for the future.
You know, I want us to, you know, bring some of the audience members into this conversation. And on that note, I want you to know that you're absolutely right about young children. It's stated that a child, by the time the child is 6 years old, has taken in and consumed, some say as much as 75% of all of the major concepts that child is going to learn. And our children don't even get to preschool, but until sometimes they're 6 years old. Sometimes they don't even get to preschool. Right. They go straight into first grade.
And the research also shows that 85% of the brain is developed by 3 years old.
And so, you know, on this point, and I'd like to ask if anybody has any questions to chime in. You have a mic in the back. The question that I'll pose to you, and we have somebody else who has a question as a closeout, is, in fact, I want you to ponder this question. So again, what do we need to be doing to arm our children? What do we need to arm our children with? If you could all think about, what do we need to be arming our children with to prepare them to come out into the workforce to become STEM professionals? And we have a question. Who's that person? Think about that. Yes.
Greetings, everyone. I am Jasmine I'm an author, and I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and worked right by Ferguson, actually. And what I appreciate about the people from my hometown is they showed America the urgency that we need to have in improving the Black experience. So I just want to take a moment. I want everyone to catch what she said. The principle here is there's urgency in it, and one action that we can take is mentoring people in the schools. But I know that we can have a lot of anger in these moments, but what I would like as leaders in STEM and in the community to kind of come up with some more brainstorming ideas of how any of us in this room can say, hey, there is urgency in this. I'm a leader. I want to go home, and I want right now, this month, to get involved in a young person's life. How do I do it? And can we create a list right now? Because I appreciate the emotions that we have right here, but we need action. We need action now. And let's come up with some ways right now that we can all go home with and create a to-do list for.
And in fact, on that point, you can go to STEM4US.org, and there's going to be a list following this event of everybody's contacts and email. Maybe we can create on Facebook a Facebook group to try to innovate an end to Ferguson on that. But let's give a round of just closing remarks on that question that I posed to you. We'll start from the end.
Again, thank you for this opportunity. One of the things, I mentioned mentoring, but in schools across the nation, we cannot find teachers who code. So if you are a novice coder, we are looking for volunteers all the time. I'm actually in a more affluent school district now, and so we can pay an outside organization to come in and teach our kids to code. However, if you code and you want to share your love of coding, go into a school. I'm telling you, I have not met a principal and you say, hey, I want to come in and teach your kids to code for free. Sign me up. I want you to code, teach my kids how to code. We have First Lego Leagues. We need teams. First Lego League starts at 5 years old, and it goes all the way up to 12 to 14. And then we have VEX competitions, which are other robotics type competitions. We need you to come in. So just because you have your education, it doesn't mean that it ends. You have to go back and reach down and pull others up from their bootstraps and help them by sharing your passion and your love for STEM. And that's what engagement means, sharing your passion, sharing your desires, igniting a fire under our youth.
Let's give it up for Ms. Asahid. Mike?
I think when it comes to girls, as a father with two daughters, it's one of the things that is near and dear to my heart with respect to ensuring that girls especially are not steered away from STEM because of our own prejudices against it. Maybe I wasn't good in math, or maybe I wasn't good in science, and we kind of tell girls to stay away from those kind of subjects, or girls aren't good in math. And one of the things that I would hope that we would do is inculcate what we're saying here, and making sure our daughters never hear that they can't do math, that they can't be scientists, that they can't be engineers.
As a father of a daughter, I echo you, and I challenge all of us to incorporate that. You have two daughters yourself as well. I mean, what are we doing to arm them with the tools they need in order to be able to combat and hopefully change this world so there won't be any more Fergusons out there?
So, we're doing a number of things, and my wife and I are incredibly involved in the development in so many different ways, including their STEM education and their STEM development. I'm fortunate that members in my family have careers that are in STEM. But from my perspective and from what I bring and my enthusiasm for entrepreneurship, as I mentioned earlier, that is some of the things that I think we could use to light the fire in our kids' hearts and in their minds in terms of what they can do as it relates to STEM. They are so much more technologically advanced than we were, and they sit with technology in their hands and they interact with technology constantly. So to convert that concept of using a device and encourage the creativity of what they can create that might be useful to themselves or to their friends and so on and so forth, I think that can be very powerful and entrepreneurship is a very powerful and exciting thing in terms of stemming and fueling that interest in STEM.
And on that note, I'm going to mention this to you. My son, Akil, we're developing a mobile phone app. and nobody, I don't want you see anybody in this room taking this idea. We're in the process, it's a debate forum.
Let me write it down.
It's a debate forum. We have intellectual property attorneys here who's going to make sure that that happens. But what he's doing is to try to, when my daughter was born, he was trying to find a way to understand her, right? And he wanted to be able to interpret what she was saying so we could know what she wanted, right? So the concept is to create an app that will take the movements, the voices, the intonations of our daughter and explain them to us. And not just for us, but for parents around the world and also for caregivers. And so the concept is that, you know, maybe what we need to do from the FCC is to challenge some of these companies that you regulate to invest some money. Some have said that in order to bring about an end to Ferguson, we need to have a venture capital fund along the magnitude of not just $3 million or $300 million, but $3 trillion. $3 trillion, some people say, oh, that's crazy. That's a sick number. Well, U.S. companies are sitting on top of $7 trillion in excess money. And imagine if we could say, hey, we can end racism and we can make gender and race a game changer for you because, again, an engineer thinks through lenses, right? We innovate through lenses. And if the Chinese are only innovating through Chinese lenses and the Indians are only innovating through Indian lenses, none of them have African Americans, none of them have Latinos, and none of them have women who are at the forefront of their organizations. What can the FCC do to help create that type of venture capital?
Well, I'm going to echo one of the things that Tony said, and that is, with respect to our children, one of the things that we have to teach is entrepreneurship. All right. Obviously, from the FCC's perspective, we can ask with the private sector. To your point, we have to create different pipelines. When I went to college, there's a kid, engineering kid, nice guy, smart guy, went to Wall Street and then packed up his Pinto, went to Seattle. Because he sort of understood how the internet worked. Really good guy. He's now worth about 18, 20, somewhere between 18 and 30 billion. That's Jeff Bezos and Amazon. So because he understood how this new technology could be used, he sort of attacked it right at its beginning. And oftentimes when I'm talking to high school students and college students, as Tony put it and as other people put it, they have so much more familiarity with the technology that we're using. And what we don't place high enough a premium on is how to think. You know, there are certain, obviously we have a curriculum that we teach our kids, but how to think creatively, how to think like an entrepreneur, how to take advantage of the technology that they use at such greater rates than we do, not just as consumers, but as producers. And so from the FCC standpoint, obviously we can sort of workshop and conference to encourage the ISPs that we regulate, to provide their money and their time to contributing to marginalized communities to make sure that there's greater training and greater inclusion.
And I saw this man's eyes light up when you said that, so he's going to make sure you do that because I mean, we definitely need to make sure we have that type of venture capital fund.
I just want to add one other thing. I mean, it's interesting. We're sitting here in a gallery, and when I think of engineering and the creativity and the ability to think and the freedom to create whatever you want, I think that's another exciting thing. It's like what you described about your son. He had an empty canvas, and his sister came into the world, and he's creating something that has never been created before. And there's nothing holding him back from painting that picture and that design through engineering or through design, which was talked about before. And to me, that's just inspiring because our kids, they can do whatever, they can truly do whatever they want, create whatever they want. It's a blank canvas. And the STEM education and the spirit of, in my opinion, spirit of entrepreneurship allows that to blossom.
And if there are any app developers, let's talk after this conversation.
One of the things we always push off on others, what should be done. We've got to really seriously focus on taking our children and teaching them to question everything. Ferguson would not have happened if we had more people in Ferguson from a mathematical standpoint questioning why a population of 60% has a police force with, 75, 80% white. I mean, this is just math. And so until we have our children question like the Jeff Bezos did, well, this thing, it doesn't exist today. Why doesn't it? And can I create it? And we just don't give ourselves enough space and opportunity to teach our children how to question everything, because you can't take ownership unless you question why something doesn't exist. When you put it in place, then you own it. And so we just don't do enough of that. And we've got to start that in our homes, in the crib, every child we have and we come in contact with from a STEM perspective, because all got to come back to science. It's great, but we gotta push that onto our children like it's life or death.
So as we close out, Councilmember, and again, as you all might know, the hashtag is STEM4US TechFest. If anybody's tweeting right now, you can definitely connect this conversation. Councilmember, close us out. Give us some thoughts.
You know me, I'm gonna be real. So I'm a little colored girl from West Virginia. I was raised in the Southeast by a single parent, okay? Somehow or another, I got into the Ivy League. We still haven't figured out how that happened, but it doesn't really matter. So, you know, I found myself in this place as a council member through another fluke. Somebody resigned, and that I was appointed to fill her seat. Since that time, I've spent my time working on really two things. One is asking the questions nobody wanted to ask about the achievement gap, which is the gap between African American and Latino students in certain subjects, science and math and the stuff we know we're talking about today, and their white and Asian peers. People kept telling me, Sheree, we've had an achievement gap for years. And I kept saying, yeah, but I'm here now. That's right. So I'm gonna ask the questions that folks don't wanna ask, and I'm gonna keep asking those questions. I was very involved in my son's education. I was at the school every day, actually, because I felt that if they knew me, they would probably cut him a break. And if they didn't cut him a break, then they'd really get to know me. So there's a lot that goes on. There are these dynamics that we have to face up to. I'd love to think about our young people excelling in math and science. But first we gotta get them out of high school. And the achievement gap really depresses their graduation numbers. They horribly depress their graduation numbers, and I don't think it's any coincidence that we also have a suspension gap. See, they're getting kicked out of school. I don't know which is the chicken and which is the egg, but I know that they link somehow. The other thing I've worked on, my county has the good fortune of being one of the richest counties in America. I represent a part of Montgomery County that is the poorest part of Montgomery County. It's the African American part of Montgomery County. My district is majority minority. I have a part of my district that has been held under an artificial development moratorium. Well, this year, that moratorium got lifted. And so we will be bringing economic development and jobs to that part of Montgomery County. That requires new investment. So the whole time I've been there, and that investment hopefully will be leveraged off of the other wonderful resources we have in Montgomery County. We have NIST, we have the FDA, we have the NIH, we have the makings for a Silicon Valley type health and bioscience sector right on the other side of DC's border, happen to be located in the majority minority part of Montgomery County. Unfortunately, my term ends in December, so I'm doing what I can. The next person will have to pick up. I say all that to say this. I don't care what you do. Just do something. Wherever you are, you can do something. Never ever believe that the problem is too big or you are too powerless, as Alice Walker said, the way that people are often convinced that they are powerless is because they accept that they are powerless. They accept it. We can no longer accept it. We can no longer allow our children to be in last place in schools. We cannot buy the notion that there's something wrong and that somehow they have to be taught differently. You know, we have to get in there. We have to fight. We have to fight every day. Our lives depend on it. Our children's lives depend on it. We can resolve all of these problems we have. We can grow a generation that loves to learn, that is actively involved, that can become entrepreneurs or anything they dream of, because we came from people who were here in chains, and look at us now. We can do this too.
So I think, David, clearly we have done our job. Would you not agree? I think we have had this type of conversation around probably the first ever conversation around the interface of technology, media, energy, and race. Let's give a round of applause to the board members again of STEM4US. I see our chairwoman, Dr. Turner Lee, Yvette Selby, our treasurer, Deneen Johnson, our board member, Fred Wilson, our other board member, Derek Allen, and Yvette Selby, and all the, and of course, Erica. Let's give a round of applause for Erica Butler for doing such a great job as the producer of this program. This has been the first, but with your help, will not be the last technology festival here in the context of CBC Week. We patented it, so we're going to hold on to the patent and make sure that this is something that continues and keeps on going. Enjoy the rest of the food, enjoy the rest of the evening, enjoy the rest of the CBC Week. Definitely talk to people that you know who are not in this room about what's going on in STEM, and let's make sure that there are no more Fergusons, that we innovate an end to Ferguson. Let us not allow our children to inherit a world where they can go out and not get a cab, where they can go out and not get health care, where they can go out and people consider them inferior merely because that they have this rich biological gift, and that is melanin. So without any further ado, let's give a round of applause to ourselves. Thank you very much.